What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Breakdown Podcast. Nick Farabaugh here with you guys. It's mandatory minicamp week. It will start tomorrow on Tuesday. You'll also have a day Wednesday there for mandatory minicamp as all the veterans for the Steelers descend upon the South Side. But today is Monday, and I like to have some guests on, of course, throughout the weeks. And today I got a good friend of mine on, Jarrett Bailey from SB Nation, Behind the Steel Curtain. You know him very well. He's all around doing everything. How you doing, man?
Doing well, buddy. No, it's good to see you. Yeah, just this time of year, it's slowly but surely, we're getting closer to being on the field for the real thing. So just get through June, get through a few weeks in July, and then camp starts. So we're getting there slowly but surely.
It's coming along slowly, but we're entering definitely a peak dead period time here. Um, in about 2 weeks, everyone will break their spring camps, and it'll be about 6 or 7 weeks until most training camps get underway. But the Steelers' mandatory minicamp is this week. It's earlier than most teams. They have placed their mandatory minicamp in the middle of their OTA schedule, so they will have more OTAs after this actually next week. Which is a little bit interesting to kind of think about how they did that. But that's a Mike McCarthy function. But I did kind of want to talk about some things because with mandatory minicamp coming up next week, obviously I think a lot of eyes will be on, what does a guy like Nick Herbig do? What does a guy like Joey Porter Jr. do? What does a guy like Keeanu Benton do? Benton has been there. Porter has been there in individual portions open to the media. He has not participated, but very easily could be injured. We do not know. Herbig, I have not seen him in the individual periods open to the media, but again, don't really expect any holdout or anything like that. I expect everyone to be there tomorrow. Maybe we get hold-ins, but this is kind of where I wanted to talk was how do you prioritize these extensions? Because Joey Porter Jr., Nick Herbig, Darnell Washington, and Keanu Benton are four guys that the Steelers and Omar Khan have basically come out and said we would like to extend them. Then you also have potentially a Patrick Queen deal maybe on the outskirts. We heard this last week when he talked, saying that there at least have been talks, even though there's no movement there. But when you look at these kind of 4 or 5 guys, Boswell already done, Hayward done, how would you prioritize the extension list? I think the clear number one to me would be Joey Porter Jr.
Yeah. However you want to divvy it up in terms of Joey Porter or Nick Herbig, it's one of those two. With Porter, especially the year that he had last year, where I think he really established himself as certainly a top 10 corner, like getting in the conversation of being like one of the 5 best young corners in the NFL. He's got to get done. And they bring in Jamel Dean to put opposite of him, which should, make that secondary unit even stronger. But with Herbig, I've long been a proponent of him, and I thought going into this season it would have made some sense to, if they wanted to move off Highsmith and just make Herbig the number 2, elevate Jack Sawyer to that number 3 spot. Like, that's how much I believe in Herbig. I'm sure a lot of other folks listening probably, think that Herbig is certainly a starting quality edge rusher. So those two are absolutely at the top of the list. Depends on, just which position you value more. I think both of them will get done. In terms of like which one I want to see get done first, I would probably say Herbig. But I do believe that both of them will get done in due time. 2 young players that are going to be, foundational pieces for the long-term future. You're not going to let those guys walk out. At least they shouldn't. So I think when you're looking towards trying to be competitive now, but also win for the future, those are 2 guys that are going to be instrumental in both of those things. So I think both of them get done. If I had to put one at the top of the list, I think I would actually go Nick Herbig just a smidge higher than Joey Porter Jr., but both of them instrumental in what the Steelers are building.
I think Porter is going to be interesting to watch because I think the number that they land on is going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where Porter lands. I definitely think he's obviously going to get north of 20 a year. Probably somewhere in the mid 20s there. But we've seen corner prices kind of pushed up even this offseason, toward the $30 million. And I don't think Porter's going to get that high, but how high does it go? Does it go to 25? Does it go higher than that? He's going to get a very rich deal. We've also seen Omar Khan in his kind of general managing career. He's been able to get these big money deals done earlier than people think for a lot of these guys. Now, listen, there have been others that have taken some time. TJ Watt, though, got done probably quicker than most people thought last year. It got done before training camp. Then you looked at Minka, that got done during the dead period. Highsmith got done during the dead period. Like he has done, Minka got done, I think, in like early June around this time. So it was just kind of interesting. He does get these money deals done, and he has gotten other deals done while they've been negotiated big money contracts, which I think is also interesting. Like Deshaun Elliott, while they were negotiating TJ Watt's deal, gets signed to an extension last year, which is kind of where, when people say, oh, you can't multitask in order, I think they could. So I think it's totally possible we could see like a Darnell Washington extension in June, and maybe Herbig or Porter doesn't get done right away. I think Porter is going to be interesting, but I think that one's going to be done no matter what. Maybe late in the summer. We'll see. Maybe earlier. With Herbig,
I pulled real quick because I wanted to know the number just to reference Derek Stingley's number. His was 3 for 90. So yeah, that $30 million a year mark. Almost all of it was in guaranteed. 89 million in total guarantees, 48.02 in full guarantees. So it's like his deal. I don't think he's going to get as much as Stingley. I don't think he's as good as Stingley. So I think that's fair. But yeah, somewhere in the range of like 25 to 29, I think is the number he'll land on. And it's warranted. Like I said, he had a huge year last year. He's consistently gotten better in each season. But I think it'll be somewhere in that 25 to 29 range.
I agree with that. I think that's probably about right. I mean, you look at McDuffie and Sauce, both have eclipsed that with 30.1 and then 31. JC Horn with 25. That seems right.
Yeah, I think he's better than JC Horn. So I think if they can settle like 26, 27, that would be the sweet spot.
North of Horn, south of Stingley. There's like a big gap right now between Horn and Stingley of $5 million per year. He feels like he's going to land in that range to me. And again, I think it gets done. It just kind of depends on the structure and everything and when it will happen. Will it happen in, going into training camp? Will it happen after training camp? We've seen the Steelers push this down to the wire. I mean, Cam Hayward's revised contract literally got done while I was driving to East Rutherford last year. Over the Jets game. Warren got done that week of that game as well. So they will get multiple done, I think, of these guys. But Porter, I think, we'll see. I think Porter might wait a little bit just because of the one, there's other corners that are going to be up for big extensions. Two, he, I think, is going to have a really interesting guaranteed structure.
I think the number for Herbig is going to be a little bit more, I don't want to say chaotic, but a little bit more unpredictable. Like, I think we can kind of zone in on what Porter's number will be. Herbig, though, like the Panthers just gave Jalen Phillips $30 million a year. I would take Herbig over Jalen Phillips pretty comfortably. And with the TJ Watt contract, which we all know is quite large, although it becomes a little bit more manageable going into next year. Highsmith's deal runs through 28 or after the 27 season, right? So, I mean, you're going to pay big money to 3 edge rushers. That's the question. They're not paying a quarterback, so they certainly have the money to do it and move around. But his number, I will be very intrigued to see what that looks like because, again, the Panthers shouldn't have paid Jalen Phillips $30 million a year, but they did. And so that's going to have, remember when the Jaguars gave Christian Kirk like $19 million a year and that completely redid the receiver market? I think we're going to see something pretty similar with the edge rusher market in what the Panthers gave Jalen Phillips. And Nick Herbig is going to be one of those first guys that, is in that ripple effect.
Yeah, I mean, Odafe Owe getting 25 a year.
Yeah,
as well. To me, I mean, he's coming off a 7.5 sack season. He has had a double-digit sack season, but I mean, Nick Herbig very consistently has been a guy that has been in that like 5 to 7 to 8 range throughout his career. I mean, you look at it, 7.5 last year, 5.5, 24. Would not be a surprise at all if they play him more this year if he gets up to 9 or even 10.
His pressure rate is always through the roof as well in terms of like a per snap basis. So like he's consistently one of those guys that is making an impact wherever he's lined up.
Correct. And I mean, I think the Steelers kind of understand you can't let the 24-year-old edge rusher walk. So this is, I think, going to be done. It just depends on what's going to happen. I mean, I guess you could tag him if you had to, if something went wrong. And then you get into the distinction of if he's a D end or a linebacker. They probably linebacker tag him, I'm guessing. I think they are going to get that done. I think they have to, and I think Herbig wants to get it done. And I think there's kind of this mutual understanding with the Steelers and their edge rush room is that there's a lot of things we can do. What we can't do is let Nick Herbig walk.
Correct.
There's no reason to trade him. It's hard to find really good edge rushers, and he's become a much better run defender over the years too. That's the other thing. He's not just a defensive pass rusher anymore. He was when he came to the league. Now he's a legitimately solid run defender. He's not elite. I think Highsmith is their best run defender on the edge.
I would agree with that.
He is still very good at it.
That's been my one irritation when the conversation does come up between Highsmith and Herbig is everybody that's like so down on Herbig as a run stopper. Like, he's not a bad run defender by any means. He's just not as good as Highsmith as it, which isn't like Highsmith is one of the better run stoppers in like the league as a whole. So like, of course he's not going to be in that range, but to say that it's like, say he's like a net negative run defender is also inaccurate.
I would agree with that. He was when he started his career. I think he's gotten so much better. He's so much more instinctual. He's not an elite run defender, but he's a much better run defender than he was, and he has become a 3-down, 4-down edge rusher that you can start every down. That's like a really good thing with Nick Herbig. But Highsmith has just become a monster in all respects. That's the thing that makes this so tough is Highsmith probably, in terms of just on the field tape, I think had the best year of his career last year. I know he didn't get to the 14th.
He was so streaky last year, like the Colts game and the Chargers game where he had as well. Like when he was on last year, he was on. And, they really needed that to an extent because, Watt didn't have the best year of his career. And that's, 2 years in a row now where he's kind of taken a step back. But Highsmith's productivity's gone up. Herbig's productivity's gone up. So, if there was a world where they wanted to keep Highsmith and Herbig and move on from Watt in 2027, it's certainly doable, more so than it would be right now just because of the dead cap with Watt. But if they wanted to keep both of those guys around, it's certainly a plausible thing that they could do.
Yeah, they could. Did you see the news? You want some live reaction to this? The Browns are finalizing a trade that will send 2-time Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett to the Rams in exchange for Jarrett Verse.
What?
7 first-round pick and other draft compensation. So while we were talking about edge
oh
rusher,
my lord, I can't believe they traded Verse as part of that.
Yeah,
I thought Kobe Turner or Fisk could go. That is absurd, man. Oh my god.
So Myles Garrett is out of the AFC North. Jarrett Verse is in. So
goodness,
still have a very good edge rusher, but he's not Myles Garrett anymore. And the Browns have now traded away their franchise cornerstone.
That's
crazy.
I feel so bad for Jarrett Verse, man.
Wow. What a deal that is. I don't have full compensation yet. Of course, it's Verse plus a 27 first, which is just wild. And I mean, that is going to be a monster deal. Wow.
Well, not to shamelessly plug, but I will be discussing this right after this on the Pump Fake NFL podcast. So, good.
You gotta check it out. When you guys watch this back in a few hours, you'll get the live reaction there because that is a crazy trade.
That is insane. Look, those the whispers have been going on all morning about a potential trade coming to be, but holy crap, that's pour one out for Jarrett Verse, everybody. Cruel, cruel world that we live in. Going from the Rams to the Browns. That's like going from living in Beverly Hills, just sitting in the electric chair. That's horrible.
That's crazy. I will say to this, I think for anyone, I get it. Jarrett Verse is now in the division, but I don't see how you can be anything but happy that Myles Garrett is gone. Like Maxi Honachor, Troy Faltanu, Dylan Cook, and Broderick Jones should throw a party today because Myles Garrett is gone.
Absolutely, man. That is bizarre. Oh, goodness.
Wow.
What a day.
So the Steelers will not face Myles Garrett this year, which is good news for the Steelers.
Yeah.
So Jarrett Verse will be a fun one to watch, but we will see where that goes. But yeah, Nick Herbig in edge rusher land, I guess, something's happening there. And then with Nick Herbig, we talked about, his money, just kind of flipping back to that. I mean, man, are we going to say between Owe and Phillips, 26, 27?
Again, I think he's better than Jalen Phillips, but at the same time, I think teams are going to look at that and say, that was a vast overpay. We're not going to give you $30 million a year. I think there is a world where him and Porter land on a very similar number, where it's $27 million a year with some incentives to be able to earn up to 30. But I think both of them will be in very similar ranges.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. Let's go to the two other guys, Benton and Washington. So Washington, I actually think is outside of Porter probably the most cut and dry of them all. Like I don't really think it's very hard to pinpoint if he's going to be valuable. He's scheme proof. He's a great blocker, maybe one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. Um, and I kind of have a very easy comparison for him, which is the Josh Oliver contract, which was 3 years, $23.25 million. I think Washington gets north of that. That's that's kind of the one you would use off of. He signed that last year, so anything above that, are we seeing 3 for 30 for Darnell Washington? Totally irrealistic, I think, for a guy with that ability to block. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that ends up getting done just because I think it's not going to take a lot of legwork to get this done.
It's not a hard deal to get done. Freiermuth got what, 448? Pat's getting roughly 12 a year. If you get Darnell Washington in the range of 10 to 11, that's perfect. So if it does come to like 3 for 31, 3 for 32, that's kind of where I think it would settle in at. But yeah, like you said, scheme proof, so valuable in the run game, but also in the pass game last year. We saw it. The play that comes to mind is against, I believe it was Cincinnati, where he catches a pass like in the flat, and Bengals are just bouncing off of him, trying to body tackle him. I think he threw like Dax Hill to the ground like he was a rag doll. Like when you have a guy like that who's athletic with the ball in his hands, and like that is a guy who is a chain mover in crunch situations, can open up run lanes on the outside. Like he's invaluable. It might not show up as like huge numbers on the stat sheet, but like, man, you're not going to find another Darnell Washington in terms of exactly what he does at his size. So I think it gets done. That's another guy where we talk about, cornerstones for trying to win now, but also into the future. Omar Khan did a really, really good job with that class. And I think,
great class.
Yeah, all 4 of them should be back. Benton, I don't have the. Yeah, that's a tough one to pencil in terms of what the number would be for Benton, just because I don't have the like defensive tackle numbers in front of me in terms of recent contracts. But also he himself, I don't know. What's your overall thoughts on like what that deal could look like and whatnot?
I think it's hard to pin down because they're seemingly switching his role where he's going to play more at 3 tech and 1 tech and play out a little more. And then, that's probably going to up his productivity. I think it will, get him out of nose. He's not going to have to take on as many just these crazy run stuffing situations where he's just not fit for it. He's going to play out more. And I think the scheme that he's going to play in with Patrick Graham has the ability to actually give him a lot more versatility and production. So I guess it's, does he want to bet on himself? Which is why I don't think actually Keeanu Benton deal is any sure thing. And I think this is going to be the hardest one to get down. I think a lot of people look at it and say, oh, it's probably going to be the Herbig deal. It's going to be the hardest. I think the Benton one is because he could easily go and bet on himself. The Steelers could have qualms about wanting to pay him a high figure, depending on where does he land. I mean, I don't know, 16 to 18 a year.
That's a probable range, I would say. Yeah, the stuff with like him playing nose last year, we saw it early on in the year with Derek Harmon out. Like he just can't do it. Not at a nearly consistent enough basis where he can play true nose. And that's not what he was drafted to do. So they were kind of thrown into a situation where he had to do it because of Harmon's injury. And the Jets took full advantage of it in week 1. And until Harmon came back, the run defense was just really struggled. So having him play a little bit more, that's a better role for him, and it's what he's been good at. So I think that's where he'll fall. And if they can get that done for, somewhere in the range of like 17, 18 a year, it's a deal worth doing, especially for a guy of his ability. And if you can get a long-term defensive line with Harmon and Benton kind of at the center of things as your building blocks, and if they can find a third guy long-term, then that's a defensive line that you can really build around for the future. So they've got 2 of the 3 blocks. God only knows how long Cam Hayward's going to continue to be around for because he's still playing at an all-pro level. They have guys in the rotation, younger guys who, they've taken in, the mid to late rounds of the draft. I think they have, the Logan Lees of the world who are, fighting for depth spots. They brought back Dean Lowry. So, they've got those kinds of pieces, but it'll be intriguing to see, after the deal gets done, how they attack that position group as a whole, in 2027. And
I'm just interested to see where he views himself.
Mhm.
So, Tershawn Wharton had 1 year of proven production, and he got about 15 a year.
Wow.
I think that's low for him. You look at a guy that had, I mean, there's like, it's kind of funny because then you look at a guy like Milton Williams who got, just an
An
insane
absolute
bag.
big haul of money, and
Yeah,
then went back to the Super Bowl and had a nice year, though. So, there are
correct.
tale of two cases.
Like, do I think he's going to get 26 a year? No. But what I am saying is, could a guy like Herbig, Benton look at himself and say, I can do that.
Mhm.
I can play 3-tech. I can be a penetrating 3-tech. Look at all the penetrating 3-techs getting paid massive amounts of money. Look at Quentin Williams. Look at Aleem McNeil, who literally, Aleem McNeil has had trouble staying healthy throughout his career with some injuries. But Benton had 5.5 sacks last year. Aleem McNeil has literally never had 5.5 sacks
really?
in his never. And Aleem McNeil got 24.25 a year. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is obviously the Steelers are not going to pay Benton that much money.
No.
But if Benton has another year where he goes 5.5 and 6, he could be up to
20's on the table in that case then.
Right. He could get to 20. So the question is, do you want to bet on yourself, get more, or does he want the security and just take a little less? You look at like the 17 per year range. I mean, Cam's around 18. Vita Vea's in there. Ed Oliver's in there. Like, yeah, I get it. That's kind of, I think, where the Steelers would like this to be. But I also think there's this idea for Benton and probably his agent where it's like, you play 3-tech this year like they're going to put you, because I think that, his agent and himself feel that he's probably not been playing in the best spot, and this year he probably will be. If he explodes off the radar, I mean, we could be talking about a guy with this extent starting at 2 rather than 1. So I think that's the tough part here. Does he want to bet on himself, or do the Steelers want to get this done? Because who knows? And I think obviously they all have their ideas of what he's worth. I think that middle ground is going to be a tough one to maybe fit.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think of like examples off the top of my head where, guys wait a little bit and bet on themselves and it works, compared to, all right, if you wait and bet on yourself and then you have a down year, like, this is apples to oranges, I guess, but like when Lev Bell set out and then ended up taking less money than he originally wanted, like, you don't want to have a down year and then lose out on money. So it's a tough thing to combat in your mind. Now, look, they can try to have their cake and eat it too with, certain incentives, which, some guys, most guys would look at that and say, all right, I can take this as a base, but, if he can get, 5.5 sacks again, and that bumps him up, an extra million or $1.5 million, then, that might be worth doing in his mind. So it just depends on what the player values. It depends on, what the team wants to do when it comes to those incentives. But certainly a guy that, when put in the right position to succeed, has shown he's more than capable of being an impact player. And considering what the defensive line is going to look like this season, or where he's going to be, he's got a real chance to maximize that.
I agree with that. I just look at where he is, and I mean, Oso Digizua got 20 a year, not reaching 5.5 sacks. I think the good thing with Benton for him in this negotiation is, I think he has a pretty high floor for his extension. Even if he has a down year, some teams still, I think that deal in free agency or with the Steelers, wherever it would be, would still start with a 1. Like, I think he has a very high floor for this. So he could do it if he wants to, but if he likes the Steelers organization, wants to stay, he can do that too. So I guess we'll see how it all goes. I think the Steelers would love to get this done and just have him and Harmon there for the next few years, with Hayward's, kind of going year to year right now. But we'll see where that
That's
goes.
That's the thing. Like, obviously, like, there's several reasons why I can never be an NFL player. It'll come to the surprise of no one. I haven't gotten any calls about showing up for tryouts. But, like, if I was going into a contract year, like I'm a guy who hates moving. That's just one of my least favorite things, maybe my least favorite thing in the world. And if they gave me at least a respectable number, I'd be like, all right, yeah, I don't got to move. I like living here. I'll stay. What the hell? Like, I certainly would have zero leverage when it came to negotiating contracts because people would very much be able to take advantage of that.
Fair. I would totally understand it. It's just funny because I think a lot of these players, man, they probably don't have to do a lot of moving on their
That's
own.
fair. That's
Um,
fair.
so it's a little different than us
They're not
here.
they're
I
not
think.
lifting couches.
Sure, I would agree. Maybe they are, but I don't know. But I'm not. I'm sure that they have people that can send their stuff wherever and everything and all that. Probably get help from the teams, I'm sure, and house hunting. They have resources available to them. The last one I did want to talk about a little bit was this idea, Patrick Queen.
Yeah.
Obviously, last year his deal again was asked yesterday, just about, or not yesterday, last week, just about a few things. Kind of, there were trade rumors this offseason. He kind of threw those to the side, but said, there have been some talks, but nothing really crazy. Feels like they've maybe just talked about it a little bit, but there's not even a lot of movement towards an extension being done. I'm not sure. I don't think this one's going to get done. I'm not sure there's a ton of interest from both sides, to be quite honest with you, to get this done. Like, it doesn't feel like there's urgency behind this like there are in the other four, where it's like, okay, we want you. Um, I think this one is going to end up playing out. I think he probably ends up playing out this year, and if he has a great year, he has a great year. But I think he ends up probably going to free agency next year. That's my kind of feel.
I agree. I don't think they're going to extend him. I think that he'll play out this year, and I think he'll sign elsewhere in 2027. PQ's been like one of those odd cases where when he's on, like he's tremendous. And when he's able to do the thing that he's like hyper specifically good at, which is bust run gaps, running downhill and playing the run game really well, then he's been terrific. Been some inconsistencies in coverage, which, it's been well documented. But I think last year, oddly enough, I think last year was a better year than 24, and he got the Pro Bowl not in 24, but he was more consistent last year. For him, I certainly like Patrick Queen isn't like a bottom half of the league starting linebacker. I wouldn't put him maybe borderline top 10. I don't know. I have to really put it in front of me to see.
Not a lot of good linebacker play in the league, so yeah.
A lot of really good linebacker play in the league right now. So it's like I said, he's certainly not like the 24th best off-ball linebacker in the NFL, but he's not one of like the 5 to 7 best ones. So I think a lot of it too, in terms of like what the Steelers would want with a future with him, will come down to how big of a leap does Peyton Wilson take? Is he a guy that shows his value in terms of being a potential green dot guy going forward, if that's the role that they would want to give to him? Incredibly smart football player, Peyton Wilson. It's just a matter of putting it all together on the field on a consistent basis. Had early season struggles last year, led to like Cole Holcomb getting a little bit more of a look. So, with that, like, if Peyton Wilson takes a nice enough leap, I think they can feel comfortable with him being the one in 2027 and letting Patrick Queen walk. If the core as a whole struggles, then maybe they would, really entertain ideas of bringing Patrick Queen back. But as of right now, on June 1st, I would guess that he'll play out the year on the final year of his deal. He'll hit free agency in March, and he will sign elsewhere.
I would agree with that. That's kind of how I feel right now about that, and we'll see where it goes. PQ's an up and down player. He's their green dot linebacker, though. Really, the only player on the team I think right now that you can confidently say is a true green dot. So there is that value to him. But we will see where that goes, and we'll see how these extensions go. Jarrett, thanks for coming on and a live reaction as well to the Myles Garrett trade. That's just crazy. Let them know where they can follow you, read your stuff, watch your work, all that great stuff.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at JBaileyNFL. If you want more of me in podcast or in YouTube form, go subscribe to the Pump Fake NFL podcast that I do with former Steelers offensive coordinator Todd Haley. You can also listen to that wherever you get your podcasts. On the channel as well, I do a Steelers centric show called Steelers Central, so you get kind of a 2-for-1 bang for your buck, and you can follow Steelers Central wherever you get your podcast as well. The written work is over at SB Nation, where I cover the league as a whole, and also the Steelers. I am the managing editor for Behind the Steel Curtain, which is SB Nation's dedicated site to Steelers coverage. So a lot of stuff that you can get from me, but follow along on Twitter at JBaileyNFL as kind of the central hub.
Make sure to check out his stuff. You can check out me, Farabaugh FB. Make sure to check out the stuff penlive.com/Steelers and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll be back tomorrow with mini camp content. And thanks for watching, everybody.